We are going to talk about a movie.
This is gonna be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater. What is going on, everybody? Taylor here, and it is the new year. It is the first day, January 1st, 2020. We made it to 2020, guys.
Barely, but we did.
Barely, but we made it here. Today we are going to be filming our year in review for films of 2019. We're going to talk about our top 10 favorite movies of the year and our honorable mentions. We are not going to be talking about movies that we did not like because we want to start off this new year with joy and positivity and things that we liked, because it's 2020, man. We're in the roaring 20s. We're doing this.
It's the roaring 20s. That's great. I love that.
God.
So, starting off with some honorable mentions. Jacob, what do you have on your list?
Quick honorable mention. Look, I really loved this film and its Klaus. A really great small Christmas film that came out on Netflix right towards the end of the year. It's just a really great original take on the origin of Christmas, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's really cute. It's adorable and gorgeous. The animation is incredible. Definitely one. It just missed out on my top 10. I was trying to find room for it and I just couldn't. So, yeah.
All right. I've got a movie that just missed out for me that I've been championing this whole entire year. And the fact that it's not on my top 10 kind of speaks for how the end of this year has been for films. But Rocket Man is on my honorable mentions list.
Absolutely.
And I know you're surprised it's not in my top 10.
Yep.
And it was really painful for me to not put it there. But it's just like...
It's kind of great because I've actually seen a fair few people who are in our film community actually put Rocket Man in their honorable mentions at least. So it's kind of nice to see the movie still getting the love towards the end of the year, for sure.
Yeah.
It was in my top 5 halfway through the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my honorable mentions is Dr. Sleep. I actually loved this movie. The more I think about it, I love this movie.
It missed out.
Yeah, missed out on my top 10.
I am shocked.
Look, same as Taylor. It's this last 3 months has been incredible for film. But the sequel to The Shining, how are you supposed to do that? And I like Mike Flanagan. I like a lot of his movies, but this one to me just delivered so much. And I heard someone say the other day that in 10 years from now, it feels like one of those movies that will become like a cult horror favorite. And I definitely agree with that.
Well, one of my honorable mentions this year was Ready or Not.
Yeah.
A movie that I knew very little about and mostly an unknown cast, unknown directors, but I just loved for a horror movie, it cuts right to the point. It's a very chase and kill horror film, and it's got a killer female lead with Samara Weaving's bride, who is on the hunt from her evil in-laws, and it was just funny, gory, and it's like a horror movie you can just feel good watching.
Yeah, and it kind of goes with the trend of every year we've had that really one quirky original horror film. This year we actually got two, and then the third one was a sequel. Of just these really quirky, fun, original horror films. And Ready or Not, definitely a great film. Had a lot of fun with it.
So I'm just going to list off a couple of more because it was a great year for film in a lot of ways. On my honorable mentions list, I have How to Train Your Dragon, just missed out on my top 10, unfortunately. Ad Astra, the more I think about it. I walked out loving that movie, but the more I think about it, the more I thought it was just fantastic. I've got John Wick.
Yeah,
missed out on my list, unfortunately.
I know, that hurts so much to put in the honorable mentions because I love that movie so much.
This was my year discovering John Wick.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 to prepare for number 3, and I gotta tell you, I love those films.
They are so good. They're so much fun.
They're just, so much fun.
I also want to throw Fighting with My Family in there.
Definitely.
I had so much fun with that movie, and Florence Pugh is so spectacular.
I assume everyone on this table has a Florence Pugh movie in their top 10.
Maybe.
She had a great year.
She
had a
did. Oh my
fantastic year.
gosh.
Well, there's
Yeah,
3 movies to
incredible.
choose from in that for Florence Pugh. So.
And I mean, I could keep going, but I want to give you guys stuff that you can mention too.
A couple more because I have seen it. The Lighthouse is an honorable mention. I
Okay.
really enjoyed that movie. It's weird. It's a masterclass in filmmaking itself and great performances. Ad Astra was also on mine. Joker only made my honorable mentions, and
That's a little shocking that it didn't.
So-
I'm actually shocked about that. I mean, considering how much you talked about that in October, like
I know.
this is my number 1 film of the year.
I know.
And
So
wow,
I had this conversation with someone last night, and I may have been intoxicated because it was New Year's Eve, and I shouted at them, Joker only works because of Joaquin Phoenix. They made the same movie 40 years ago. It's called Taxi Driver. And then I was like, oh, that's why it's not in my top 10. So it's a good movie. It's a really good movie. It is well made, but if it wasn't Joaquin, I don't think the movie works. So that's why it just drops down a little bit for me.
I agree with that. I think that I walked out very positive on the film. I really enjoyed it. More time away from it.
Yeah.
The more time I've gone, no, it's just an incredible performance backed up by really, like, not inspiring directing, like it's not bad directing, it's just very by the numbers.
It works for the movie it is. There's nothing overly revelationary. Revelationary about it. I don't know if it's a word, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I land on Joker.
Joker was in my honorable mentions too, but I just thought the movie was a little bit indecisive about what caused his mental illness. Yeah.
That's also very true.
I don't know. That's interesting to hear because it was never going to be anywhere near my honorable mentions
Yeah.
list, and I know how much you guys in particular both really liked that movie after you had seen it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
I have one more honorable mention, so if that's okay. And this one probably hurts the most, and it's Ford v Ferrari. I love that movie. I've seen 4 top 10 lists in the past week that have had it at number 1.
Wow.
And I have gone, why didn't it make in my 10? It hurts a lot because I love that movie, but yeah, only an honorable mention for me.
That's
Well, I've got-
interesting, yeah.
One I want to put out there, and people think I'm crazy for this, but I really like Jennifer Kent's The Nightingale.
Yeah.
This was her follow-up to The Babadook. This was the movie that made headlines for having so many walkouts at the Cannes Festival, at the Sydney Festival, because it is very unapologetic in how it depicts rape. But if you've seen the film, Jennifer Kent, she knows how to shoot a film, different ratios, period film in early 20th century Australia about colonialism, Irish settlers, and Indigenous trackers, and it's one of probably the best period films Australia has ever made. And I think Jennifer Kent is one of the most fearless Australian directors working today. And if you can just make it through the rape scene in the beginning, it is a beautiful looking film. And I think the actress Aisling Frankowski, she gives one of the best female performances of the year.
I am still dying to see that.
It also
It is
won.
really, really difficult to catch up on movies that you've missed.
You know, the hardest part is Australian movies as well, because they're, considering they're made in our own country, they're actually quite hard to access unless you go and buy them on DVDs.
Yeah.
So, but I would agree, The Nightingale is a
It also Nightingale swept the actors.
Yeah.
Yes, it did,
best
yeah.
film and director.
All right, so just real quick.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so just some honorable mentions that I just want to make some real quick. Happy Death Day to You.
Yes.
Just a really fun horror film.
I thought you were wishing her happy birthday.
No, it's just a really fun horror film that is got that sci-fi twist, and I just really I get a kick out of both of those films. I really love both of them. Really great comedy this year was Long Shot.
Yes.
Just
I like Long Shot.
really funny, really engaging, really entertaining. Another one that just a superhero film that I do just want to mention that isn't on my top 10, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah, okay.
Loved it.
I had a lot of fun with it. It was crazy. It was it has I think one of my favorite sequences of the year in the Mysterio scene is just that is a comic book come to life.
Yeah.
And Jake Gyllenhaal's insane in that movie.
Longshot has one of my favorite lines this year, which is, just because you star in movies doesn't mean you're a movie star.
Oh, that's funny. All right, are we ready to jump into this?
Let's
you
do
guys?
it.
All right, let's do
Yes.
this and regret
All right.
everything.
We are going to start with number 10 on our lists. And coming in at number 10 for me, this spot was the worst spot to try and decide what movie was
Did you
going
have
into
like
this
4
last.
movies that
Yeah,
you wanted
like,
number 10? Yeah.
Like, I had How to Train Your Dragon, Rocket Man, Ad Astra also fighting for this last spot. But ultimately it went to Us.
Yes.
Us is a movie that very much like Get Out, but for different reasons, has stuck with me the entire year. It just pops up into my mind every now and again. It was such a haunting movie for so many different reasons, and Lupita Nyong'o just completely knocks it out of the park in this movie. She is astounding, and a lot of the things that this movie addresses are fears that are very, very hard to shake, I think, once you start thinking about them. It was a movie that I have a hard time with horror. A lot of people know that horror can be a really tough genre for me because I literally get scared, but like in a way that's not great to deal with. Like, it's really hard for me to handle.
My hands hurt after every horror film.
Exactly. But this movie in particular spoke to fears that are so, I think, just entwined in being a person in terms of identity and mental, like your mental health and things like that, that it's just, I find myself thinking about it all the time.
I completely echo those sentiments Us is my number 10 as well.
Oh,
It
nice.
is haunting. It is absolutely pure terrifying. Lupita Nyong'o gives easily one of the best performances of the year. The fact that she has to basically play, not only does she have to play 2 roles, she has to play them the same but completely separate. And the fact that you know instantly without any dialogue or anything, as soon as she comes on screen, you know exactly which one she's playing. It just speaks to how incredible that performance is. Jordan Peele is easily becoming one of my favorite directors. Who's, no matter what, if he announce, like right now, no matter what Jordan Peele announces, I will see it. It's just he has gotten to that level for me, and a incredibly thorough follow up to Get Out. I
think it's interesting to see this movie on your list because when we walked out from seeing this movie, you were not into it.
Yeah, it's a movie that has absolutely aged on me, like in a good way. Like that has the more I have thought about it as walking out, the more I've gone, no, that's stuck with me. And it was a movie that was, I think I walked out going, it was a 3.5 out of 5 movie. And now I'd be just shy of giving it 4.5. Like it's gone up that much in me, like just how much I enjoyed this. I still have an issue with one particular scene in the way they shot it and the way, actually not the way they shot it, the way they directed it, which is with the White family. Where as soon as you saw the White family and you heard the generator go off, you're like, oh, okay, they're dead. Like I would have really loved a scene where when they turn up, where it just, you followed the family on the boat and they get to the house and suddenly, oh, there's more doppelgangers, because the trailers had not spoiled that there were more than one doppelganger. So
more than one family.
Yeah, so that everyone had doppelgangers, not just this family. And I thought that could have been a really cool moment. But other than that, one of the best movies of the year, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Lovely. Number 10 for me, I only watched this movie about 2 nights ago, and I watched it in the hope that it could potentially make this list, and it's A24's The Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
This movie is incredible. It is one of the most unique movies I have seen possibly ever, in the way it's shot, in the way the story's told. For those who don't know what it's about, Last Black Man in San Francisco is about a black man who keeps going to this house in San Francisco that he believes his grandfather has built, even though it's occupied by 2 white people. It's sort of a story about gentrification. Words. New year, new me. It's time to learn some new words. Can't do it. It's about white people
Gentrification.
taking black people out of San Francisco, and it's equal parts funny and heartbreaking. But in the way they shoot this movie and the acting from Jimmy Fails is incredible. It's his first movie as an actor, first time director, and Joe Talbot. They actually Kickstarter campaigned this movie, and Brad Pitt's production company, Plan B, and A24 picked it up because it was that good. So incredible film, and I highly recommend everyone checking it out. I think it's on VOD at the moment in Australia.
All right.
Yeah. Well, my number 10 film is an animated film, and that is Toy Story 4.
Yeah,
I
Just
know.
missed out.
just missed out.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people have criticisms that it is more of a Woody movie than a movie about the whole toys, and that it does follow a lot of similar story beats as the previous films, like Evil Toys, several other things. But I think the movie does a lot to justify its existence after the brilliant capper that Toy Story 3, what we thought was a brilliant capper, Toy Story 3. But any movie that makes me cry, it has a place in my top 10. I love the way it gives Woody's story a new closure after he is separated from Andy, and he's sort of at that place of what's his purpose in life now, and the way they depicted it and the way they developed his relationship with Bo Peep, I thought was just so well done.
I really love the way that Pixar have used the Toy Story franchise to grow up with the people, with us essentially. Because I would have been 3 when Toy Story came out. Like I still remember breaking the Toy Story VHS. So it's a franchise that has grown up with me. And you're right. After the perfect ending of Toy Story 3, which has the perfect ending, to them to then go, you know what? We've got a 4th story, and they completely justify the 4th story. Like, that they justify you going, no, we didn't actually say goodbye to Woody. Toy Story 3 was goodbye to Andy.
Yeah.
Toy Story 4 is goodbye to Woody. Now, I said this at the end of Toy Story 3. I don't ever want to be a Toy Story 4. I don't want there to be a Toy Story 5 with Woody in it, because his story is
It's finished.
It is done, to me at least. But then again, I said the same thing after Toy Story 3, and you proved me otherwise.
But I mean, like you said, I think this animated franchise, I guess, whatever you want to call it, the Toy Story movies have done what so many other just films in general, not even animated films, have not been able to do, which is they know the story they want to tell, and unless they have a story that's important, they're not going to tell it. Because you're right, they had no reason to make a Toy Story 4 from our perspective, because the people who grew up with Toy Story got that closure that we thought we got that closure with Toy Story 3, and then they took their time and developed a story that they're like, you know what, this is going to resonate with them too, and it's going to be just as important, because they're not going to realize they didn't get their closure with Woody.
Yeah.
And we're going to give it to them.
Yeah.
Which is, I cried like a freaking baby.
Yeah, that
whoa.
movie's very emotional. Great pick. Great. Yeah,
Yes.
very, very great pick. All right, you want to move on to number 9?
Yeah, so number 9. This movie is like, guys, all right. This movie was going to be in my top 10, no matter what. I did not know where it was going to be in my top 10, because it started very, very high on my list. And then, as we've been saying, the end of this year just took my list and went, fuck you.
Hello.
Like, just, you're going to have to redo this entire thing like 600 times because it was been great. But coming in at number 9 for me is Endgame.
That is my number 9 too.
Yeah, there we go.
So this movie absolutely destroyed me in every best possible way. This movie was the crowning jewel of the end of this. Like, it's just ridiculous, because they had so much to accomplish in this movie in terms of not only storytelling, but so many character arcs to wrap up or to develop further moving forward after this. But it's such a pivotal historical moment in terms of just storytelling in movies, and it's something we've never seen done before, and it's just I'll never forget sitting in that theater and watching this movie for the first time, because I still don't even have words when I try and talk about just what it was able to achieve.
No, it's definitely it's a movie we're going to be talking about further up in this list. But
I'm sure we're all going to have some things to say about this movie
we are
at some
definitely all
point.
going to have some things to say.
I think the Russo brothers have really elevated Avengers because I'll be honest, I enjoyed Avengers 1, but I didn't love it. I just thought I didn't feel any stakes, and it just felt, I don't know, I didn't feel like the jokes were that, I thought the jokes felt a bit forced, but Ultron's another story, but Infinity War and Endgame, I really feel like they do a great job of balancing so many characters. I felt the stakes. I felt the emotions when characters die. And that's why I like these movies a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All right, Nick, what is your... this is my... Endgame, I will get to when it's on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll get onto my
Endgame's
list.
an honorable mention for me.
Okay,
It didn't make my top 10, so.
Okay, fair enough. All right, number 9 on my list is Ad Astra. This made my top 10.
You didn't even like this movie when we left the theater. Like, I looked at you and went, this movie's so beautiful, and I love the story they told, and the third act did everything you didn't think it was going to do, and it was so good, and he was just like, yep.
I remember you not enjoying this movie. I remember all of us who were there walked out and were like, wow, didn't it? And you were just like, what was that? What did we just watch?
I'm one of those.
This is my number 9 film of the year because, wow, has it like just stuck with me, and I have not forgotten a frame of it. It's beautiful, like absolutely gorgeous.
God, yeah.
This film is hands down. If it wasn't for another film on this list, it would be the most gorgeous film of the year.
Fair.
Agreed.
But-
Agreed.
The story they tell, the problem I had when I first walked out was I didn't love how they handled, at least I thought I didn't love how they handled Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones. That was the third act was my issue. The more I thought about it and the more I've walked away from it, gone, no, that third act is really, really powerful in the story they were telling. I just wasn't aware of the story they were telling, which was about masculinity and about the inherent problems of masculinity.
Yeah.
And the way I think Tommy Lee Jones gives the role he had to give in that final scene. He is absolutely gut-wrenching and heartbreaking, but also you can tell this is a man who was extremely hard on his kids. And you can tell in this literally 10-minute sequence everything about this man's history. I think Brad Pitt is very lucky that Once Upon a Time's coming out this year because he deserves an Oscar for Ad Astra over Once Upon a Time.
But he'll get it for Once Upon a Time.
But he'll get it for Once Upon a Time because he is incredible in this.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
This is his best performance I have ever seen Brad Pitt give.
It's easily his most subdued as well. And it's kind of funny watching that because Brad Pitt's a fucking star.
Yeah.
He can sell movies. And for him to do something where most of his dialogue is voiceover. So when he's physically on screen, he's literally staring into space. And you get this conflict just through visuals in his mind. The dynamic of his father-son relationship is beautiful. Like, this movie is brilliant at doing that.
And the fact that you can tell a story about a character not having emotion. You are not allowed to have emotion, and you can feel every single feeling and emotion he has in that scene, in any scene in the film, is just perfect. And this movie has resonated with me more than I ever thought it would. It has stuck with me. I have not forgotten it since we walked out, and it is my number 9 film of the year.
It's a great story because you're right. It's really a story about his relationship with his father set to this beautiful background of space. We get to see some of the best cinematography and some of the best lighting choices and just some of the best, just some of the most visually gorgeous things we've seen this year. It's beautiful. But then you get this really, really important, intense story about this man, like you said, who can't have emotions, trying to deal with all of these emotions that because of his job, but also because of how he grew up and because of his relationship with his father, he can't have these emotions. But then he's forced to face them literally because he has to go and try and find his father. It's such an interesting dynamic, and I think they do it so well.
Yeah. The scene where he then uses emotion to get like where he says the script and nothing happens, and then he uses emotion, and that to me is worthy of the Oscar just for that scene alone.
That scene's awesome.
But yeah, and that's not including. Man, I'm gonna be saying this is the best performance of the year for about 3 performances this year. So
I know.
yeah, we're gonna get there.
We'll get there. All right.
My number 9, which I'm not going to harp on too much because it's definitely 100% coming up later, is Jojo Rabbit.
Yep.
Loved it. Thought it was a fantastic movie. Satire is always a winner for me. I love when you can take the piss out of things. I think that's a big part of Australian humor too. It's what I grew up watching is just complete piss take humor. And Taika Waititi does it perfectly. And because he's a Kiwi as well, so they get the humor. But I won't harp on it too much because I think it might come up later.
Yeah, it definitely does. I'm just going to spoil that now. It definitely does.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, Endgame. Well, I was so hyped for Endgame after Infinity War. Surprised me by how much I liked it and how moved and entertained I was by it. And just like, you think you know what the movie is when you saw the trailer, but when they had that 5 years later time jump, in the first 10 minutes, I was like, what is this movie going to be? And I can count like 5 scenes in that movie that moved me to tears or close to tears, like Ant-Man meeting his daughter 5 years older, or Tony meeting his dad in the 70s, or Scarlett dying, or there's just such a big film that could have been a mess, but they juggle so many different, and I just love how they revisit previous Marvel films through time travel, and a great send off for Tony Stark as Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, and it could be like one of the best comic book movies ever made.
I want to echo all those sentiments. I just remember Endgame is my number 8. So, which it dropped from. I didn't think a film could beat this all year, and then suddenly, December happened, and
It's been an insane Oscar year, hasn't it?
I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent. I got to about June this year, and I remember saying to you, I said, "There's been one good movie. Like, there's been one really good movie this year, and that was Endgame." And you looked at me and went, "Yeah, you're wrong."
I went, "You're a moron, but I love you. It's fine."
I was wrong. This year has been incredible and has been really hard. Like, for a year that started off, it started off really bad. It had turned into be one of the best film years we've had in a while.
long time.
In a while. Look, Endgame is my number 8. Realistically, given where we have seen this is the first of 3 wrap-ups this year.
Yeah.
It's the only one that does it incredibly. It's
Yeah, I would agree
it's the
with that.
only one that stuck the landing.
Are the other 2 Thrones and Star Wars?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And which makes me kind of appreciate it even more.
Yeah, a little bit,
for
because
sure.
we've seen 2 other big, monstrous, like monumental things try and do the same thing, and you go, "Oh, it's not that easy."
This is how it's
It's
done.
really hard.
And where's Marvel going to go from this?
That's what I'm interested
Yeah,
to
it's
see.
exciting.
Actually,
And
I'm so excited.
That's where it gets exciting. But again, look, Endgame, you've all said it already. It just hit you in every single emotional area.
If you've put in the time throughout the years to keep up with
Yeah.
everything that they've put out, and you've been along for the ride, even just casually, if you've been along for the whole ride, this movie pays off everything that you've been through this entire time. And it feels like a chunk of my life is like over after that movie came out.
It's
just
been 11
because
years. It's like
know.
almost just under half of our lifespans. Like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and
I'll
again,
never forget watching Iron Man with my friends in year 12.
yeah. I was 13 when it came out, and I saw it in the cinema, and you had no idea it was going to be the start of something, because I was like, "Oh, this is a cool movie," and then bam.
I know. My stepdad took me to see it because he both my dad and my stepdad are very big into comics and were big into that kind of stuff as a kid. But my stepdad took me to see it, and I just remember like him seeing it with me, and I've never seen him so excited that like because he knew. I didn't know at the time, but he was like, this could be the start of like this could open a lot of doors, and it's just so crazy. But we're not going to turn this into an Endgame podcast as much as we all probably want to do that.
Yes.
So with my number 8, Little Women takes that spot
That's
for me.
my number 8 too.
Hey, there we go. You guys
There
got
we go. I know we're in
I like
sync
it.
here, man. But look, this was one of my most anticipated movies ever since it got announced, especially since they announced that Greta Gerwig was going to be at the helm of this movie. And not that we've seen a lot from Greta Gerwig, but what we have seen gave me confidence to know I think she's really going to handle this movie very, very well. And then you got the cast, and you're like, I don't know if it's actually possible to mess this up with the cast you have and with Greta being the one to handle this movie. And I went into it, and at first it's a little jarring because of the way that it's directed, and then you watch it and you realize, oh, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
This is exactly what this needs to be. It's beautiful. The cast is incredible. All of the emotional moments it gives you completely pay off. It feels like a movie that's based in the time that it's supposed to be based in, but really transcends that and kind of comes to where we are still a lot of the time with things that women deal with and women struggle with. And maybe not in exactly the same ways, but sometimes, yes, in exactly the same ways. And it really brings to life all of these different women and all of their different identities in ways that are unique to them, in ways that show how different women are, even if they are going through the same struggles. And it's just, to me, it was beautiful because it's so great to see so many different women with so many different personalities and dreams and desires all in one movie together, and see that not only that, but they're real people. They make mistakes and they do stupid things and they have emotions, and it's like, it was everything that I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I will definitely be talking about it later. Nick?
I'll also be talking about it later. It's your number 8. So
All right, Nick, what's your number 8 then?
number 8 is a French film called Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Saw that too.
This movie is fucking beautiful. This movie, I had a reaction to this film that I had never in a million years think I would have a reaction to a movie like this. Its premise is simple. It's forbidden love. It's set in 1800s France. A painter is commissioned to paint a heiress whose brother has just died, and so she's going through a bit of a depressive stage at the moment. And they fall in love, but they don't fall in love within the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie, and it's a 2-hour movie. It takes about an hour for them to fully start realizing that they're in love. And it is sensationally acted. The two main actresses are phenomenal. You really feel their anguish as they try and express their emotions for each other. And they're also trying to express their emotions to each other in a language that I don't speak. So that's incredible. For a movie to be able to universally talk about love in a way that everyone can understand is phenomenal. This movie possibly has some of the best cinematography of the year. It's shot in 8K, so like and it's shot on an island. Every color, every shot, every landscape, it's literally, for the sake of like being corny, it's a painting. Like a movie about paintings, the movie looks like a painting. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a slow burn. It's 2 hours. It feels like 4 hours. Don't get me wrong. The last scene in the movie is incredible. My only gripe is that I wish they ended the film on a certain shot at the end of the movie before the last scene. It would have been the perfect. It would have been a 10 out of 10 movie if they had finished on that shot. It just goes for about 10 minutes too long. That's the only thing.
Yeah, it has some of the best cinematography I've seen this year. I love the colors and the costumes.
Yeah.
And just the actress's face. Like,
Yeah, they're very beautiful.
Yes.
But it's just the movie just resonated with me in a way I didn't expect it. I'm a big softie, I guess. That's what I've learned about 2019 has taught me about film. I'm a big softie deep down inside.
well, like Taylor, my number 8 is also Little Women. At first, the movie lost me at first because of how it jumps back and forth between the the present and the future, and the actresses are not aged differently. It's just a different color palette. So I was lost at times as to which time frame are we in, but eventually I caught up with the story. I just loved how this family felt like a real family, especially with the sisters talking over each other. They're nice to each other, but then they get into a bit of rough play with the wrestling and throwing the pillow at each other's faces. I did wonder at one point about why is Timothée Chalamet's character jumping from sister to sister, but I've listened to other people's reviews and I've realized it's because, you know, he is an orphan, lives with his grandfather, and he sees that Marsh family as the family he didn't have. But they do it in a way that doesn't make it look weird. Like Taylor said, I love how each sister has a different personality and how they can be kind of, I don't know, cruel to one another, like one involving someone's book being destroyed, which I didn't understand at first, but the way they resolved that conflict in the middle of the film, I thought was a beautiful moment involving ice skating. The performances are great. These four sisters, they're not played by American actresses, but they're so believable. You know, you've got a Scottish, 2 British actresses, and an Australian actress playing those sisters, and they're great. I also like the fake out at one point involving a character who's very ill. And I feel like for a movie set in what decade? It's set in the
It's
past.
during the Civil War.
The
so
Civil
Yeah.
War.
Yeah.
Something about the way it's paced or the way the dialogue's written, it has a bit of a modern spin to it, but doesn't feel so abrasive. It just felt like a simple but very fresh take on Little Women. I've never seen the other movies. I have never read the book. I do plan on watching the 1994 Winona Ryder version, but I really like what Greta Gerwig has done with this story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Little Women is number 7 on my list.
This flow
You're
is
gonna
working
say
really
it,
well.
yeah. Trust me, it's about to be blown up. It is an absolutely gorgeous film. Again, like you were saying, with the aging never bothered me. The use of the 2 color palettes, that was enough for me, and I was like, okay, cool, that's the difference. That's how I picked up on it and was able to follow. And I thought that was really well done. The Timothée Chalamet's character. I don't know what it is with Greta Gerwig or Timothée Chalamet constantly playing a dick.
Typecast. Typecast.
Isn't that
Dude,
4 films he's played a dick
If you look
in?
like Timothée Chalamet, you can do whatever the fuck you want, dude. He's so hot.
You're like, I'm a pretty boy. Fucking deal with
Dude,
it.
just deal with it. He's so.
The one performance that he's not getting the credit it deserves, and no one is talking about it, which is understandable considering what the film is about and who else is in the film. Chris Cooper as the grandfather.
Yeah.
It is the best I've ever seen him. He gives a performance that you're expecting to go, and not again. I'm like Richard. I didn't know the story, so you're expecting. Okay, you've cast Chris Cooper. He's gonna be a dick at some point.
You expect him to go full American Beauty. That's what you expect.
Yeah, and he never does. Like,
No.
and that's he is just a genuine, sweet, loving person.
Yeah.
And you're going, that is brilliant casting. That is like absolutely brilliant casting. And he not only that, he played it incredibly. Like I think
it was heartbreaking.
he was.
Yeah.
He was incredibly, and I wish. I get why more people aren't talking about it because everyone else completely shines in this film, but no one's talking about him. And I just
I think he's brilliant in the movie. But can you imagine people coming out of Little Women
yeah,
and being like,
exactly.
Chris Cooper's the best.
And I feel bad because don't get me wrong, like, Laura Dern's incredible. Florence Pugh deserves a fucking Oscar, especially after we've seen pretty much all the candidates now. It's between her and Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer, I'm gonna do
Lopez.
this every single show. It is between her and Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
For me. at
But
the
she won't
moment.
win it for this movie. That's
No,
what makes me sad. And
yeah.
it would be for Marriage Story, which
I
Yeah.
just want to say one quick thing. I agree with you about Chris Cooper and his relationship with the Beth character, what's that
Yeah.
name? With the piano.
Yeah.
And the context of why he is so infatuated with her. I just thought it was very sweet.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was why I really loved
Well,
and was drawn.
I thought the way that that particular situation was handled in this movie is great, because for someone who has read the book, like, I know, but for all of you saying you hadn't, and then you went in expecting, oh no, this is gonna be bad. Like, they set that up in the movie
Yeah.
of obviously his grandson isn't super fond of him, and he makes him seem like it's a terrible place to live, and he's not a great guy. And then you get the real story, and you're like,
Heartbreaking.
I was already gonna cry in this movie, but now, damn it, like, oh. But yeah, Little Women deserves so much love, and I really hope that even though the Globes decided to not do anything about it, that the Academy will see it and be like, wonderful, brilliant, amazing, inspiring.
Goddamn
And
Jose.
great score by Alexandra Desplat.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we moving on? We ready?
Yeah.
Okay, next on my list is a movie that was brought to us by our Lord and Savior, Ryan Johnson. Knives Out is next on my list. And look, we saw this movie twice.
Yo.
And I'm so glad we saw it twice, because I loved it even more the second. I loved it the first time, but I loved it even more the second time. There's so much to appreciate in this movie. First of all, the story is written incredibly well. The cast is just out of this world, and it doesn't feel like it's an overcrowded cast. It feels like everyone's what they need to be and functions the way that they should. I think that it's a really charming movie. It's really witty. It's really funny. But it also gives you something to engage with. You have to be paying attention, but you're still having a good time to enjoy it. And it really, really makes me happy to see that box office wise, it's doing really, really well. It's kicking some ass, both internationally and within the US. And it just makes me happy, because you can tell that a lot of love went into making this movie, and it was just such a fun time to have. And Ryan Johnson deserves it, because I think he's a brilliant filmmaker, and I'm really glad that an original film is getting as much attention as it is with this movie.
I want him to get a best screenplay
I
nomination.
know, me too, so bad.
So
I think he
do
deserves
I
it.
think I think with the box office, there's a chance.
Yeah, I definitely think it
there is
helps.
a chance.
I also think there's just not much else in the original screenplay, pool this year. So I think he's definitely got a shot at getting nominated. Absolutely.
I echo all your sentiments. We will be talking about this movie in a later in a number.
It is higher up for me as well. So, number 7 for me. Return to form for this actor, by form, he's had like 2 good performances before this. Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems is literally like, do you like having 2-hour-long panic attacks? Yep. Well, this is the movie for you.
Oh,
It is-
great. That's exactly what I love to do.
It is
in my
loud.
time.
It is loud. It is abrasive. It is in your face. It does not give a fuck about you. It is just give a fuck about its story and its movie, and it is incredible. It's one of those movies where the confusion in the confusion of the story and the characters inside it is portrayed so well on the screen that you as an audience member are feeling frantic trying to keep up with it, but not in a bad way. It doesn't feel convoluted. It doesn't feel that it's not confusing. It's people talking over each other in very hostile situations. There's lots of loud music, lots of colors used. And crime films are just cool for me in general. So seeing sort of like a scummy underground sort of world to be a part of, it's incredible. And I think it definitely lives up to the hype.
With everything I've heard about this movie, I'm so, like, I do really want to see it. And it's just, we haven't been able to watch it because it's impossible to watch in Australia right now for the most part. Like, it's just really, really hard to watch because it's not really out here for the general public. Yeah. So we haven't seen it yet, and I really do want to see it, even though I'm like, I have like panic attacks in real life, and I know how unpleasant that is, but I still, for some reason, am like, I want to see Adam Sandler in this movie. Like,
he is amazing in the film. He is so good.
Yeah, I'm beyond excited for this, and yeah, I can't wait to watch it.
It'll probably and this crappy thing is like it's good and it's bad because it probably would have made my list if I would have watched it, but then it's like, what the hell do I take off this list to like?
It's also worth noting that Uncut Gems is actually executive produced by Martin Scorsese and his longtime producer Emma I forgot her last name, but yeah, the Safdie brothers. I loved Good Time, which was another great crime film, which also had an against typecasting of Robert Pattinson, and so I'm really excited to see what they do with the genre in upcoming films and how they cast their films.
They're currently writing a remake for 48 Hours, the Nick Nolte film. So I'm kind of, I'm intrigued to see what the Safdie brothers can do with it. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. All right, Richard, your number 7.
My number 7 was a co-production with Australia, and that is Hotel Mumbai.
So good.
Awesome
So
movie.
good. Oh my
Awesome.
god.
I knew nothing about this story, but this is about the 2008 attacks on the, I think it's called the Taj Mahal hotel in India.
I think
I believe
I
so,
think
yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah, and I just love ensemble movies, and this is a big ensemble with the chefs in the hotel, the American and British guests who are hiding in the restaurant. You've also got you've also followed the terrorists from arriving to India on their boats and making their way into the lobby. And I understand it's very relentless how they'll just shoot. There's someone being shot every 2 minutes in that film.
It's
But
brutal. Hey, it's
yeah,
it's not
a brutal movie.
fun movie to watch.
But-
yeah.
I did a review on this movie after we saw it because this was a movie that I did want to see, and it like made me sad that it was getting no buzz and no one had really seen it. But after we saw this movie, I did a review where I just sat down and like had to talk myself through it because it was so brutal, so unrelenting. Like it's not like kind of your typical movie about this kind of thing where they cut right when it gets brutal.
Yeah.
They go all the way through it,
I've-
and
yeah.
it was just such a jarring experience.
Never seen a movie about terrorism do it that way, where they're like, no, where you feel gunshots. Like I've never really been in a theater and felt like literally anyone could die in a heartbeat, and really felt the power of an AR-15. Like you know, or I know, or an AK-47 or whatever they were using, but like you really feel just how deadly these things are, and what the impact of just one bullet can do. And
Well,
that's
and
what I
it's
think the
and it's
power
not
of the film
using
is.
violence just for the sake of it.
No.
It's
No.
showing you this is
No.
how fucking scary
Yeah.
this actually is
Yeah.
for these people. And it's definitely on my honorable mentions list. It was on my list, and then once again
Yeah.
the end of this year happened.
Well,
and
because
all
we
of a
got a
sudden-
real early release here in Australia.
Oh,
It came out
we
like
saw
March
it,
or something.
Yeah, we saw it really,
Yeah.
really early, and
Yeah.
it only came out in India like last month or something.
Yeah,
so,
right. Okay.
So, I mean, it had a weird release schedule all over the place, unfortunately. But oh man, it was
Yeah.
so well made. The
Yes,
cast
incredible
was
movie.
yeah.
Yes, and a solid cast with Dev Patel, Ami
Oh,
Hammer,
yeah.
Jason Isaac. I was actually in Toronto International Film Festival when they were there promoting the film. Yeah, everyone stopped for photos except for Jason Isaac, but it was still a great time.
Jason, what are you doing, man? Come on.
He just jokingly said, "Fuck off."
That
Jokingly.
sounds about right.
Jokingly.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Are we ready to?
yeah.
I'm assuming this doesn't flow for you anymore. So
No,
it's
it doesn't.
gonna,
Flow.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're back
All
to
right.
you now.
Okay.
It just doesn't
So,
flow anymore.
all right. So the next movie on my list is something that we spoke about in honorable mentions for everyone else, but I don't think anyone's going to be surprised that this is actually on my list, and this is Ready or Not.
Yep.
I was
Awesome.
so excited for this movie. The trailer dropped for this movie, and I went, this is the movie I've been waiting my whole life to see. Like, I watched it, and I was like, I'm 100% in, because not only is it a mystery, right? Like, they introduce this concept of this is hide and seek, but basically you're fucked. Like you just can't win this game,
You're
really.
not wrong.
Like
not
you're
wrong.
gonna come out of this game and most people are gonna have lost this game. Like that's just how it's gonna work. So it builds that tension, but it also gives that integral heart of the story of these are your in-laws now. So like how the hell does this even work?
Yeah.
Like what
It's
is going
the
on?
movie is batshit
Oh,
insane.
it's like balls to the wall, just
Yeah.
fucking crazy shit. And and I'm a person who can only handle gore to a certain level.
yeah.
but like the way it's used in this movie
Yeah.
is perfect.
It's very comical. Like I think like comical violence is definitely easier to digest,
Yeah.
and especially with the payoff at the end. The last 3 minutes of this movie
So
is probably the
good.
most violent. It's even more violent than the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So like, it's such a good payoff. But the comical way it's used, you can't help but laugh at the most disgusting things you've seen.
It balances comedy and violence and
So
mystery, and it just the tone that this movie strikes works so well. And Samara Weaving is just like she's A+. She's so good in this movie. She's exactly what she needed to be. There's a scene in this movie that will like make me flinch when I think about it for the rest of my life. But it was so
Yeah.
it was so good. I just thought the movie was perfect, and I really
Feel it.
you're like, oh, why'd
I
you
can
mention it?
feel it.
But I think it's so great because that scene clearly had the impact it wanted
yeah.
to have, where we think about it and go, nope, 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 nope,
Yeah.
nope. I also do want to just mention the other person in this movie that I thought was the shining star, which was Adam Brody.
Yes.
I
Oh,
thought he was so good. So good. We're seeing the resurgence of Adam Brody these last
Shazam.
couple of years.
Shazam.
Yeah, he was really good in Shazam
Yeah.
too.
What I loved about Ready or Not is that family, when they're trying to kill Samara Weaving, they're not glib about it, they're not smiling, they're just, this isn't fun, but we gotta do it.
It's just another day at the office. sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
And you know, it's another movie about batshit crazy white people.
I mean, it's about time, right?
Yeah.
But another thing I just want to mention really quick is I think the element, you're right, they have the element of, oh, it's just another day at the office, but then you also have the element of the couple of them who've never experienced it
Yes,
before going,
yeah. It balances so many different elements really well. Like you said, not just the comedy and the horror, but with its characters too. There is so many interesting dynamics in this film, which it's so enjoyable. And it's you said earlier on, there's always those quirky comedy horrors.
Yeah.
They don't work all the time.
No.
Sometimes they're too funny, sometimes they're too horror, sometimes they're just shit. This was that was my thoughts going into it. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't actually that excited for Ready or Not. I was like, I could go either way, and loved it. Walked out loving it. So
all right.
Absolutely had a
Jacob,
blast with that one.
What do you got for us?
All right, number 6 for me is Booksmart.
hey.
Easily one of the funniest films I've seen all year. Easily,
Oh,
hands
We
down.
we had tears
Yeah,
streaming down our
this-
face, kind
this
of funny. Like,
Is
oh,
such a funny movie, but not only is it funny, it's got a lot of heart. It's got 2 incredible performances by and I'm completely gonna forget.
Beanie.
Yeah,
Beanie
Beanie.
Feldstein.
Yeah. But I'm gonna I will never get those right. But again,
And Caitlin Dever. Sorry, we should make
just
Caitlin Dever.
completely. Yeah, I'm just off the trail right now. Look, Olivia Wilde does an incredible job of directing this film. It is very well written. It is very funny. And it has hands down the hardest laugh I had all decade. Easily, without question, it is the single best scene in this of the decade for me, and it's just one of the funniest moments in a movie all year.
we will come back to this later. I will have things to say a little bit later.
My number 6. We don't have to harp on it too much because you've all mentioned it already. I walked into this movie going, yeah, it'll be good. And I walked out with the biggest smile on my face. The big softy moment again has come back. Little Women. Loved this movie. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about how happy it made me. I was just perplexed. I think that's what shocked me the most is that when we all finished the screening and everyone's like, oh, I really liked it. I was like, no, guys, I loved it. Like, I don't think you understand how much I love this movie. Florence Pugh's incredible. I think I have the biggest crush on her at the moment because she has killed it in 3 movies that I've absolutely loved this year. But she is so funny in this movie as the sort of, you can definitely tell she's one of the younger sisters who's trying to be like Saoirse Ronan and Emma Watson. And that dynamic they all have together is phenomenal. Agreed, Chris Cooper is hands down the best male actor in the film. I love Timothée Chalamet. I think he's an incredible actor. But I can't say anything else that you guys already said. This movie made me feel a way that I did not expect it to make me feel. And that's what, when you make top 10 lists, it's all about how the movies make you feel. It's not whether they're the best or not. But this is the mixture of the best movie with the one that made me feel the happiest.
Well, and one thing I do want to say just before we wrap up, probably on Little Women, is the thing that I think is a big testament to how much this movie actually works. Is so many men are walking out of this movie going, "Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't think this movie was for me," but
Wow.
And it's not even that I didn't think it was going to be for me. I just wasn't like, see, I really like Lady Bird. I didn't love it, but I really like it. I think it's a very well made film. And I think Greta Gerwig's fantastic as a director. But I was just like, oh, look, there's been a lot of adaptations of Little Women. I mean, it's just could just be another one of those adaptations. There was some early okay buzz. So I just wasn't like, it's just I wasn't sold. And then
But that's what I mean.
Bam.
Like so many like people, not even just men, but a lot of men had heard
Yeah.
about this movie coming out and went meh.
Yeah.
Like all right. But I just think it's a testament to like I turned to both of you after the screening and you were I think close to crying if you weren't crying.
I had
And
tears.
like
Yeah, I had
it's,
tears in this movie.
it's just it's beautiful.
I just remember, but to echo those sentiments, I remember walking in and going, seeing the giant G rating on the screen and going,
That's right, yeah.
crap. like,
Like we're gonna get no violence in this movie, no swearing. And it's like I want things like this in my movies, but no, hey, wholesome wins at the end of the day.
Yeah.
A wholesome 2019.
Awesome.
Well, I just wanted to give a shout out to Florence Pugh for Black Widow next year. Or
I
this
know.
year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Oh god damn it.
Oh, it started. oh, it started.
Another year closer to death.
Sweet release of death.
Oh, there is only one positive of 2020, and that is November this year.
No.
Well, my number 6 movie is Lulu Wang's The Farewell.
I wanted to see this movie.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
No, we still haven't
Oh.
watched it.
I had the special experience of seeing The Farewell just 2 weeks after my grandmother's funeral this year. And because this is a story about a Chinese family in America who have to go back to China to spend time with their matriarch who is dying from an illness, but due to Chinese customs, they're not telling her. They're actually putting together a phony wedding for a cousin with a girl he has only been with for 2 weeks. It is sad but funny, and we are watching it through the point of view of Awkwafina's 30-year-old New York Chinese character who is sort of lost in life, and she actually is forbidden to come to China because the family knows she's too vulnerable. She'll spoil it to the grandma, but she makes her way over, and the whole movie is her trying to keep the secret, but struggling with the fact that her grandma could be dying, and it's just there's so many conflicts within this family. The uncles, the parents, who are also struggling to keep the secret. The grandmother, Nana, is also a funny character who it's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, I love this movie and I urge everyone to see it. Fantastic movie.
Do you know what's funny about The Farewell is that it's a story that is so absurd it could only be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I think
That's
is
my favorite
It is
kind of
true.
story.
yeah, and that's why I think it manages to be so heartfelt as well, because it made my honorable mentions, but I remember walking out of that feeling that was one of the most real cinema experiences I've had this
It's
year.
autobiographical. This is
Yeah.
what happened to Lulu's grandmother.
All right.
All right,
You want to move on to your number 5?
Yeah, we're
Top
breaking into the top
five.
5 now.
Five.
Oh, here we go. All right. Well, we're gonna swing back around for my number 5 because Booksmart is my number 5. Like you were saying, this movie it's to me it's a triumph, and what I mean by that is you have these 2 young adolescent girls, and you have this movie that is it's not what you expect it to be. At least it wasn't for me, because this movie focuses on these 2 girls who are very much focused on their education. That's what school is to them. And then they start to realize that just because you are focused on your education, they have classmates who are getting into these prestigious schools and have these really great grades, but they also go out and have social lives. And to them, that's this revelation of you can be good at school
So funny.
and also have do these crazy batshit things.
I'm gonna watch this movie
I
again
love-
tonight. I
and
love
like-
this movie.
I love that scene in the bathroom stalls when she finds out that the kids that she looks down on have actually gone into great colleges, and they say, "No, we like school. It's just not the only thing
Yeah.
we care about."
Yeah,
and that felt like a realistic version of young people.
Absolutely, and I think it's so intelligent to have framed the story that way, because in most movies it's kind of painted as one or the other. You're either good at school or you
Or you're
have a
not,
social
yeah.
life, right? And it was so interesting to kind of take that and go, what happens when you have to like face that?
Yeah.
When you have to actually look at that and say that's not always the
The
case.
case, no.
And it was such a cool lens to frame the story through, and then have these two girls try and go, well, I guess we should have some fun in our last little bit of time
The
we
last
have doing
hurrah.
this, like, and just kind of see what happens. And I just want to give a shout out. One of my, like, Caitlin and Beanie are great in this movie, but Billy Lord
Oh yeah.
is
Yeah.
just
So
a
funny.
scene stealer in this movie. She is so
It's
hilarious.
so absurd.
She's so absurd
which I
and she's
love.
so good. And she kind of like reminds, like, there was always that person at your high school. There was at
Yeah.
least one
Oh,
of
yeah.
those people
Oh,
at the
yeah.
school
Also-
that you went to.
I also like the girl. I also like the girl that Caitlin Dever is pining for, the skater girl,
Oh,
and where that
so
goes.
good.
Yeah.
That and where that
Yeah.
goes is kind of
Well, that
funny.
sex
yeah.
scene is just incredible filmmaking. Like, that's incredible storytelling, because it's the hardest part when you're making like a raunchy teen comedy. For so long, it's always been about how can we glamorize sex.
Yeah.
Like, let's make sex cool for teenagers. I know there's probably been other films done before, but this one felt so authentic with a sexual experience that it was too relatable. Like the
Yeah.
whole, and that's
Yeah.
why the film has so much heart behind it as well.
And that's the thing. It's been like that for a long time, where Hollywood glamorizes everything,
Look
right?
at the
That's
American
the point.
Pie trilogy. Like, it's almost a similar sort of movie. There's similar sort of vibes, you know what I mean? But it's always like, sex is the best. It's like, sometimes.
Like, actually, it can be pretty
sometimes it can
awkward.
be fucking really weird.
I like that line in the bathroom. You're just a hot girl who's gonna peak in high school.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what it's like, shitting on like all the American
Yeah.
Pie sort of
Yeah,
movies.
can I just say how far Olivia Wilde has come? Because my introduction to her was as Alex on the OC, and now
Oh my god! Wow.
Yeah.
My
And-
introduction to her was on House. As
yeah,
13.
and then
Yeah,
and, then,
yeah.
and then House and God,
Look at her now.
I know.
yeah, she's.
And then her incredible and amazing performance in Cowboys and Aliens.
Hey.
I was thinking of that, but I thought, nah, I didn't
like that
see that.
movie.
She's in Richard Jewell this year. God, what else has she been? She's done a lot of great stuff.
And we'll point out, it's directorial debut for her as well.
Yeah.
It's her first movie, so
Yeah.
She's in the critically snubbed but incredible Rush that we
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
adore so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
She's very good in
But
that.
this movie, look, this movie made both of us laugh harder than I think we've laughed in a long time. It has the funniest scene in the world in the Uber scene, which I still do not want to talk about in
No.
case you guys haven't seen it, because
Yeah.
I will not be the person to
No,
spoil that
fair.
for somebody.
Just because.
But
yeah.
But it's so good, and this movie definitely deserved a spot in my top 5. I just didn't know where it was going to end up, but it's just, I think it's a movie that had all of the odds going against it, because and unfortunately it didn't do what it should have done in box
Yeah.
office, because it wasn't handled the way that it should
No.
have been in terms of marketing and all that kind of stuff. But for the people who have seen it, it's been a really special movie for a lot of people, and I think it was brilliant.
Definitely.
for sure.
All right, I am going to move on to my number 5.
All right.
One we have already talked about, Knives Out. This didn't make my top 10 originally. We walked out the first screening and I was like, that is a really, really solid, well-made film. Then we saw it a second time and I went, oh, that's even better. And that's what's pushed it up to the top 5, just because you don't notice the setup. And that, like, you don't notice the little bits of clues, the little setup. You can call it if you pay attention. If you are actually a detective in the film, you can call it, because he sets up everything so perfectly. The writing of this film is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I just, I do want to give 2 shout outs though. Ana de Armas
Yeah.
and Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
They make this movie. They are the best part of this film by far and away. I love that the way they handle the family as well is that this is just a family of assholes, of people who are just the worst. And I love the commentary on Jamie Lee Curtis's character is the one that I find the most fascinating, because she is a woman who believes she is self-made, but she is only self-made because of $1 million loan she got. Like, it's that sort of commentary. It's Ryan completely lays into his films and is just really, really, really well written and just a wonderful and amazingly well made film.
Her character was fascinating to me because she seemed like she was the only one in the actual family, other than maybe Catherine Langford's character, that was there because she loved her dad.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell that she was the one that showed up because she
Yeah.
actually
Gives a shit.
gives
Yeah.
a shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, oh, great movie.
Yeah.
So good.
Fantastic.
I
movie.
wish it was on my top 10. It's in like the 11 to 15 spot, but it made me laugh unlike a lot of movies do.
Knives Out's my number 5. It's so funny, dude.
See, I find that interesting because when you first when we walked out, you were like, "Oh, I've got some issues," but
I still do.
liked it.
I still actually do have a fair few issues, but I think what you said there was perfect. If you're playing detective, it's a really enjoyable movie. I've only seen it once, and I watched it for pure enjoyment.
Yeah.
So, without trying to be too detective, but then you can't help it because it's a whodunit movie. So, my only major issue is that I think it just slows down a lot. I think it's relentless, and then there's about 20 minutes where it's not unnecessary, but it's just such a drastic shift in pace that I was like, I don't know. I feel like I'm talking myself out, but I still love the movie, and a lot of that's Daniel Craig. Most of it is Ana de Armas. She's incredible in the movie. She sells everything that every moment she's in, she sells. And it's so funny seeing the rise of actresses like this because she did, film classics like Knock Knock with Keanu Reeves, absolutely classic films. And then she started doing like Blade Runner, and you're like, oh, okay, is she just going for like bit roles? And then she has a leading performance like this. It's like, oh no, you have the immense talent that's just been hidden by the fact that no one's given you a chance till now. And this is the stepping stone for her to do it in more incredible
A lot
things.
of
Wait till
people,
next
people
year.
were surprised.
Yeah, June.
People were surprised that she was the lead. Like, they didn't sell that in the marketing. And
Which
It's good.
I actually think that was smart of them to not sell you a
I-
lead.
Because
do
it's sort
too.
of a spoiler to an extent, yeah.
And I thought that was just a clever way because it was one of those, what could have been such a throwaway character. They give her such complexities, and she nails it for an unknown actress.
One other thing I just want to mention that I really loved about this film, and I understand. I have seen some people criticize it like this, and I get it. But this is where it comes from a second viewing. Is the twist halfway through the film basically goes, "Oh, that's not this isn't the film you were getting."
Yes.
And I can understand if people were like, I wanted the film I was promised, not the film I got.
You have to go along for the ride.
Exactly. It is
essentially.
a film you have to just be willing to go with because you will get the film you want at the end.
Yeah.
You just have to
Oh, the
go
payoff
with
is incredible. And the last moments in the film with the major reveals and then the people who are involved turning on each other is fantastic screenwriting. Like, it's very tense, but it's very funny at the same time. And then there is a visual gag that pays off with Ana de Armas' character, which is fucking hilarious. That it even caught me off guard in the moment, even though it is set up and mentioned multiple times throughout the movie. So it's very well done. It's very, very smart.
I just want to say one thing. There's people who hate Ryan Johnson, and they're saying, "Oh, Ryan Johnson is ruining Clue." And I just want to say, there have been
Wait a second.
Clue-
What?
Clue is not the only whodunit film
it's-
out there. There have been many. Gosford Park, to name one. There have been so many. So he can dip his toe into that genre.
I feel like that's just
What?
fanboys.
I was
fanboys.
already trying to like
We better not turn this
handle.
into Ryan
I was
Johnson
already
table.
trying to handle people saying he ruined Star Wars, but now we're going with he ruined Clue.
Didn't you also hear that he ruined telepathic sci-fi future films about mafias? I heard that too. Do you remember when he did the Canadian whodunit heroin
But
movie?
then
I heard
again-
he ruined that
but
genre
then
too.
again, these are the people who also say they haven't seen Knives Out. So
This just Ryan. We don't deserve Ryan Johnson to be in the movie
No.
space, to be completely honest with you. But he's here, and he's like I said earlier, our Lord and Savior Ryan
Hey,
Johnson is
the
here.
movie's made a bank, so
Oh,
I
it
mean, I
made
think there's a
so
few people
much-
talking out
it's
their
made-
ass there.
It's quadrupled the budget that it had at this
yeah.
point. So.
I like Looper. I like Knives Out. I cannot wait to see his next original creation.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited.
All
Okay,
right.
I don't even know where we were. Whose
Oh,
turn is it?
It's my turn.
Okay, all right.
My number 5 is Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love movies about the making of movies, and I was so excited to see not only Tarantino's first film in 4 years, Leo's first movie in 4 years, but also the pairing of Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, because they are like our generation's, biggest stars who can actually act. And I have heard people complain that it is so long, not much happens. But you know what? I found the characters so interesting, especially Brad Pitt's, aging stuntman who's kind of like, I don't know the term is, his way, chilling his way through life, and he's
Just
sort of
coasting
like,
through.
yeah, he's sort of like he serves for Leo's character, doing all his chores while he's working on movie sets. But I do love so many sequences in this movie, like the Western that Leo acts in, the Manson Ranch scene with Brad Pitt, and I know people have complaints about how they handle Sharon Tate in this film. I felt like you could have done a lot worse with her and what they show her doing in this film. Yes, she doesn't have a lot of lines, but I think Margot Robbie does a nice job at showing her as just this actress who's just enjoying life, being in Hollywood. And I do have a slight criticism about, I don't hate what happens in the last 30 minutes, but it turns into a completely different film. And maybe it doesn't change tones that perfectly, but I'd be lying if I say I was not entertained when the flamethrower came out. And and I was on the edge of my seat thinking, are we going to watch the Manson murders, guys? Oh my God.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Tarantino can make a movie about nothing just entertaining to me. I was one of those people who liked The Hateful Eight. And yeah, he's a great dialogue writer.
I have a weird relationship with this movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot that I love about it. Brad Pitt gives an incredible performance. I think Leo is very good in the film as well. I like how they I do like the way they handle the Tate murders and I do like the way they handle that. I don't get the criticism on Sharon Tate. Like there's literally a horror movie this year about the curse of her. So this is not the worst movie that handled Sharon Tate.
Was that the one with Hilary Duff?
It is the one with Hilary
Yeah.
Duff.
Oh.
The Haunting of Sharon Tate.
Yeah, I like really okay, but I'm one of the people. I think it's too long. I think there is a lot of editing issues with this film that just this story probably this is Tarantino indulging in his worst aspects as a director. He needed to just be reined in a little bit, but that's my opinion on the film.
We both kind of walked out of this movie not really liking certain parts of it a lot and then having problems with other parts. And then we always said we were going to watch it a second time to kind of like really get our bearing on it. And then we literally just never had time to sit down and rewatch it after we got back from the US. So it's just one of those movies where you have to carve out 3 hours to rewatch it. And with everything going on, it just didn't happen.
I was the exact same sentiments as you guys. Watched it a second time, realized what I was getting myself into, and thoroughly enjoyed it the second time. It's a buddy movie. It's just two dudes hanging out. It's just it's literally a day in the life.
Yeah,
movie,
well, I saw the movie twice. The second time, I didn't like it more or like it less. So I don't know if it's a movie that's going to, age well, but I just was entertained by it.
That's fair.
Yeah. All right, number 4.
Yep.
So this movie at one point was my number 1 movie, and then the last couple days have just been like hell trying to figure out what my actual order is, and this will probably honestly change again just because my top 5 shuffles around so much with how much I enjoy all of these movies for different reasons. But for me, it is Jojo Rabbit. And Jojo Rabbit to me was a movie that we watched the teaser together and then we watched the trailer together. But when we watched the teaser, we were both just laughing so hard, but also so confused. It was one of those laughing that's so absurd of what they were giving us in a teaser. And I was just like, I'm so in. All I needed was that teaser to be like, I'm so freaking excited for whatever this has to offer. because I think that Taika Waititi is brilliant. What We Do in the Shadows has been one of my favorite movies for
So
such a long time.
Funny.
And I
So
actually
funny.
introduced him to What We Do in the Shadows.
It is
It's
so
hilarious.
so
good.
funny.
So good.
Such
And
a
if
good
you
film.
buy into what Taika Waititi has to offer,
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna get so much out of this movie. I also really appreciated the fact that yes, it's satire and it has that wacky humor that if you love it, you're gonna
Yeah.
love this. But then it does take that moment to go, there are some serious things we have to deal with
Oh, shit,
here.
yeah.
And I think
Absolutely,
it uses imagery and foreshadowing very, very well to get you
Oh.
to that moment.
Yeah.
And it pays off. And
That specific moment.
I love how we
is-
all know exactly what
Yeah.
we're
But that's
talking
why it's
about.
brilliant.
That's why it's brilliant.
Yeah.
The
It's
girl I was with in the cinema, she shrieked when that scene happened.
Yeah, and that's fair because it's such catches you off guard because this is how I remember it, and I don't know if it's done, but I feel like the color palette slowly changes throughout the scene, and so you kind of expect something not right is going to happen, and then there's that visual payoff, and you're like, oh fuck, like let's not forget. I know we've got imaginary Hitler and we got, kids doing funny things with weapons, but we're also in Nazi Germany right now.
and there are consequences
And there
to
are
what's
massive
going
consequences to this war. So yeah,
on. That was the moment when it really went, we can use satire to talk about this and maybe make it a little bit easier
Yeah.
even to talk about it, and we can show that there were real people on this side of this war that were forced to be on this side of this
Yeah.
war, and you see the scenes of her just being a mom and
Yeah.
just being
Just-
being a person in this movie, and then it leads you to that point and you just go,
Well, the boy is an outsider who sees being a Nazi as a sense of belonging.
yeah,
which is such an interesting way to frame the movie.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I that's we'll get into it a bit later.
Yeah.
But you're right. The framing of this film is the most powerful part of it.
But we'll get back into it
Yes,
in
we
a
will.
minute or so, I think. Here.
All right, my number 4 is a 3.5 hour epic. It's Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. I've been looking forward to this movie since it got announced about 3.5 years ago.
Yep.
I remember when they dropped the first trailer for it at the last year's Oscars. And honestly, I have just been looking forward to it so much. I got a little worried when the first trailer dropped, not going to lie, because of the CGI. I did not like the CGI.
No.
But this film is just a pure epic. It is a Martin Scorsese film, but it is not a Martin Scorsese film. In the frameworks of it doesn't do the Martin Scorsese film tropes. It instead tells a story about age, about legacy, and about what is your legacy? What is your reflection on history, and what is your impact on history, and who are you really? And I think Al Pacino is incredible. I think Joe Pesci is the best part of this movie
For sure.
by far. There's issues I have with the technology. I think there are points where it doesn't work.
It's still very much in its infancy too.
Yeah.
Like it's not that it's completely forgiven for that, but for sure it's
you can make a 40-year-old look like you can make an 80-year-old look 40 in the face, but he ain't gonna act 40.
No.
And that's the biggest problem with this technology.
Yeah.
Again, though, look, this is still one of the best films of the year, and I absolutely adored it.
Well, people are saying, they overspent. They didn't need the de-aging technology. And I say, well, do you say that about every Marvel movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a completely
That's
separate
a
conversation in
separate
itself.
conversation. But yeah,
This movie was on my honorable mentions. I definitely liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to. And I mean, there's a lot that I enjoyed about this movie. There's a lot I took out of it. I really had a great time watching it. I thought there was some really fascinating story elements. I thought the acting performances were fantastic. But it just missed out for me. It just wasn't quite. Wasn't quite the movie for me.
This has been a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
All right.
Where are we up to?
Number 4.
Marriage Story.
Oh,
Yes.
This movie is heartbreaking. I loved it. No, it's incredible. It's an incredible movie. It works on so many levels. It's very well directed. It's superbly edited. I don't think enough people are talking about the editing in this film. I've gone back and watched a few scenes here and there on Netflix, a few of the scenes that stood out for me, and they're just perfectly edited. Very good screenplay, very honest screenplay, but I mean, you can't not talk about Adam Driver and ScarJo.
Oh.
They're giving the performances of their career, so loved it.
My number 4 is 1917 by Sam Mendes. Just when you think, what can the war genre do? And we've had so many this decade with Dunkirk, Hacksaw, Fury, but he has given us a World War I film shot to look like one take, and with the help of the legendary Roger Deakins cinematography, and with a great score by Thomas Newman, and we follow these two young soldiers from, mines collapsing, helicopters crashing, trenches, no man's land. It's how they did that. It is unbelievable. It's the technical achievement of the year.
we will definitely be talking about those
I-
movies later.
Well, we're just gonna slide right into my
Oh, yeah,
number 3
yeah,
because
sorry, right.
1917 is my number 3.
Which is also my number 3.
Okay.
All right. So for me, 1917 is a movie that's stuck with me ever since we saw it, and we got to see it early.
Oh, yeah.
We saw it
So
early.
happy that we
And-
saw it.
Thank
early.
you, Universal.
Could not have waited. It's still not out in Australia. It doesn't come out till
I know.
Thursday next week.
I know.
Not only is it not out in Australia, it's not out in America either yet. Like
No,
it's
not
in
yet.
it's in
How
limited release in America.
Yeah, I
Couldn't
know.
do it.
But this movie is incredible in every technical sense that it can
Yes.
be incredible. It's
Yes,
the
yes,
cinematography is mind blowing. The editing that you can't actually tell is there is
It's-
really great.
That's it.
And there are so many moments in this movie that I said this in my little Twitter review that I posted, that this movie earns every emotional gut punch that you get.
Yeah.
It earns all of the emotional moments that it gives you. It's a beautiful story. And there are moments that stick out in my mind that are so well acted. I think George McKay is ridiculous in this movie, but there are moments that are framed so well. As Richard mentioned, No Man's Land is one of the most anxiety inducing
This
sequences
movie is a
that I've
tension,
seen.
masterclass in tension
Like
for sure.
no,
The city. that
yeah,
they hide in.
yeah. There's so many moments where there's just like people are talking about it for Uncut Gems, but I think 1917 does a
Yeah.
fantastic job in just having you
Absolutely.
be tense through the entire
Mate,
movie
it's-
because it just takes you along on this journey that it doesn't give you a second to breathe.
No.
You're always on this journey wondering what the hell is going to happen next
No.
and if the end game is actually going to be what they set out for it to be. And it's just a remarkable story. The directing is phenomenal. Like this movie is going to stick with me for a very, very long time, and I cannot wait to actually see it again.
I can't wait to watch it again. I'm so pumped for this movie to watch it over and over again because it's. You're right. It's tension, it's anxiety, but it needs to be because it's war.
Yeah.
It's a war film that at no point does it ever glorify the fact
No.
that it's war. Like, and whether you sit on the side of like, we need war, we don't need war, it doesn't matter because the movie is ultimately telling the story of the guys who have to go. This isn't, it's not a movie telling you like what political side you should be on. It's just like, no matter what you think, there's guys who have to fucking suffer through this. And there is 2 scenes in this movie back to back, 2 very, well, not scenes, but moments. There's one where someone gets a little injury and then the injury goes into a certain something and you go, this is fucked. This is disgusting, but it's harrowing. And and the scene in the city where he is running away and those flares are going off. Not only is the score masterful in that scene, it is a beautiful score. it is some of the best, if not the best cinematography I have ever seen, possibly seen this decade. If you haven't watched it yet, go on YouTube and look at the 5-minute featurette of how they made this movie, and you will have an utmost appreciation even more so now. It is one of the most incredible behind the scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah, and there's a waterfall scene.
Yeah.
It is. It's definitely one of Sam Mendes' top 3 films, if not maybe his second best.
It's
It's up there. It's bloody
Okay,
well up there.
Yeah, no, I will definitely be talking about this film because I adore this movie so much, and I'm going to get to it. But before I can get to that, I'm going to talk about my number 3, and that has already been mentioned, and it is Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit, you guys have already said it. It's absolutely hilarious.
You loved this movie on the screening. You absolutely
loved this film. It was so much fun. I was laughing my ass off. I was smiling ear to ear. But not only that, and then I got the gut punch.
Yeah.
The movie is able to do both and in the same scene. And that's impressive. That is the thing that you remember from this movie the most is you can be filled with just pure tension of this, what is going to happen, and then absolute pissing yourself laughing. And then the other way around. You can be laughing absolutely at the ridiculous, and then you get a visual shot.
Yeah.
And suddenly you go, and suddenly you're the realization and you're in tears. Like, it's the complete juxtaposition of just the 180 and just everything this film does is incredible. I think Taika absolutely deserves at minimum a writing nomination.
Yeah.
Probably deserves supporting actor. Probably also deserves a best director. I think this film is incredible. This is, to me, Taika's best. I cannot wait for him to do more original work. I kind of don't want him to do Thor right now.
I mean,
Yeah.
we get the best of both worlds,
Yeah.
though, which is great. I think that at the very least, you're right. He deserves a writing nomination because if the writing in this movie doesn't work, this movie doesn't work.
No.
I do think he did a phenomenal job with directing, so I would like to see him there, but that's a bit of a more tough field.
Yes.
But all right.
All right, Richard, what's your number 3?
Number 3 is Marriage Story. Who picked it earlier?
Me.
Nick.
Number 4.
Yeah, I think it might be Noah Baumbach's best film because he has tackled divorce in a lot of movies like The Squid and the Whale, but I just loved how your allegiances keeps changing with between the former wife and former husband, and how you slowly realize that Adam Driver might not be as virtuous as he seems in the beginning, and you may have some mixed feelings about Scarlett in the beginning because she goes against his wishes about not bringing in lawyers, but you see where she's coming from, and then you see who he really is. And I think what it made me realize is that divorce is only messy when lawyers get involved because they are they're good at coexisting, but lawyers just brings out the worst in divorce, and that fight between them, that's when it's them together without their lawyers, and the way that fight elevates was just shocking, moving, at times funny. It is a funny film, more funny than say Blue Valentine, but but no, I think it's a terrific film, and I think it's Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson's best performance to date.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I'm down to 2, and it's between those two, and I'm still debating what's number 1 going to be.
Yeah. Fair.
I'm gonna let you go. You can decide your number 2.
Decide my number 2?
Well, you can talk about your number 2.
Okay, thank you. So my number 2 is not going to be on anyone else's list, but I didn't expect it to be. But this movie really surprised me after seeing it. It's a movie that I was really, really curious about. Wouldn't necessarily say I was excited for it, but I was very curious. And I think that Antonio Banderas gives us his best performance to date in this movie, and that is Pain and Glory. I think this story is just so compelling. And there's just such a realness to the story that they've decided to tell. Not only is it a visually stunning movie, because it is, I think that the cinematography is great, the color palettes that they choose to use are great. I think it really reflects the culture that they're talking about in a wonderful way. But I think this movie is just beautiful in its willingness to be emotional, and its willingness to show you the struggles that these characters are going through. And there are some pretty heartbreaking moments in this movie that really just spoke to me. I think I don't know, it's the more I think about it, the more I don't really even have specific things to say about the movie, because I could talk about this movie for a long time about all the things I love about it, but it's more just the emotional journey that this movie took me on was just something that stuck with me, and I thought it was astounding.
I remember getting the email for this movie, the screener, and basically the only reason that I had heard about it was because of Rachel Cushing. She'd said it's one of her favorites of the year. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, all right, we'll go see it. And I remember turning to you and saying, this is going to be some foreign black and white film that we're just like, God knows what it is. Because I knew nothing about this going in, and I ended up walking out going, wow, I really, really loved that. And yeah, look, Antonio Banderas is far and away the reason why this film works as well as it does for me. And he gives easily the best performance I've ever seen Antonio Banderas give.
I think that is absolutely correct, that he is incredible in this movie, but I don't think that his supporting cast gets the attention that it should, fair. Because his best friend in this movie is just it's something to behold, the relationship that you see that they have, and the way that they're forced to deal with their past, and the way that they're forced to deal with life kind of always just bringing them together, even though they clearly want nothing to do with each other anymore, and kind of having to face that and deal with it, and deal with these very real problems that kind of keep Antonio's character from doing the things that he loves and things that he kind of feels like he was put on the earth to do, and really just having to tackle these things head on. And I don't know, I just had this connection to this movie where it just really spoke to me in a way that I wasn't expecting, and I just think so much of it is brilliant. And it really made me happy the other day. We were driving in the middle of nowhere in this theater in this very rural area where there's only one movie theater with air conditioning now, according to their marquee, but it was the only movie theater for miles and miles and miles and miles in this little town, and they were playing 4 movies, and one of them was Pain and Glory. Oh, wow. And I was like,
that's incredible.
Yes,
wow.
This is exactly what we need, because I do think it's a very relatable story, and I know that foreign films aren't for everybody. Not everybody likes subtitles, and that's just not everybody's thing. But I think that if you are willing to do that with the way that a lot of people seem to be willing to with Roma, I think that you will really have some appreciation for what this movie tries to do.
Definitely. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. All right, let's go to it. My number 2.
This is, once you do this,
I know this is official.
This is your
it's
number
on
2.
the internet forever, and it is scripture.
Yep.
Just know this.
I'm going to immediately regret this decision because
follow your heart.
I see it again in a month.
Follow
in
your
2
heart.
weeks. All right. Number 2 is 1917. Wow, what a film! Like seriously, this is hands down. I adore American Beauty. American Beauty is number 3 on my all-time list.
Wow.
Yeah, American Beauty is one of my all-time favorite films.
Well, I mean,
a
fair
beautiful
enough.
film.
It's fantastic, but yeah.
This may be close. This may be Sam Mendes at his best. I think this is a better directed film than American Beauty, but Sam Mendes in this film, and Roger Deakins, and I think I do think you need to give equally the credit to
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, I would agree.
This is not Roger Deakins shot everything and Sam Mendes just coasted on Roger Deakins. That's not how filmmaking works. This is both people working as to the best of their abilities and delivering us one of the single most original war films you will ever see.
Yeah.
You'll never see another war film shot and made like this, because once the gimmick's done,
It's over.
It's over. You're not going to get it again. And the fact that they were able to do it like this impressively, is incredible. I am getting really over the it's just a video game criticism. I don't know what movie they're watching, because this isn't a video game. There is a story here, and there is a genuine, heartbreaking story in the middle of this film about two men trying to get to a spot,
Yeah.
and it's their journey and their.
Well, one of the brothers has huge stakes because
Yeah.
the message he has is to save 1,600 soldiers, one of which is his own brother.
Yeah.
So there's big stakes involved.
And not only that, just their confrontation with the war.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
their reconciliation with, okay, what is this war and what does it mean to me? I think George McKay. Look, I had no idea who George McKay was going into this movie. I will never forget George McKay's
Yeah,
now.
right? Oh my gosh.
He is easily this is easily the most underrated performance of the year. I know like I said, there will be three that I'm talking about. This is the second one. This is Brad Pitt, and then the third one I'll talk about next. The use of the cinematography, the scene at night running through is a frame. He's just paintings. One day I will have a frame of that film on my wall. It is just that gorgeous and perfect, and I cannot have enough words to describe how much I love this film. The final scene, the scene that is on the poster, the scene that's at the end of the trailer, the scene of the trailer.
Yeah.
I was in tears. And that's the power of this film, is the fact that someone running can put you in tears with one of the best scores of the year. I think this score is far and away the best one of the year.
It's criminally not getting talked about as well.
And that's there's a lot about this film that's criminally not getting talked about because of the gimmick. And,
Yes.
and I know I shouldn't call it a gimmick.
Yeah, I
'cause
don't
it's-
really like that.
No, sorry. Okay. I shouldn't call it a gimmick because it's not a gimmick. It's not used in a gimmick way. It's used in a way that enhances the story, because this story wouldn't work as well without the style that it's
Yes.
told. You wouldn't have that personal threat of just pure dread every single time, because
Well, it would give you a minute to breathe if it was
Yeah.
edited a different
Exactly,
way.
yeah. It'd just be
Yeah.
another war movie.
Exactly. And I just loved the way it handled everything about this film. The scene between two characters at the end of the film is beautifully heartbreaking. The song as well, when that is harrowing, and I still hear it. This is one of my favorite films of the year. It is one of the best films, and I'm maybe regretting not making it number one.
There's no going back now.
No, it's such a great film, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see it again, because I will watch this. This will be a film I watch over and over again. I love it so much.
Incredible.
All right.
My number two. I'm a sucker for crime. I'm a sucker for Scorsese. There was no chance this wasn't making my top 10, even if it was the worst movie in the world. The Irishman. I loved this movie. I was lucky enough to see it in theaters. We had that limited theatrical release in Australia, which is very rare. And I had to pee probably about 45 minutes into this movie. And I was like, I've made a grave error. I shouldn't have. I had a coffee beforehand because I was like, well, I needed to stay awake. and I held on to that. I did not leave. It was a battle of wits. It was a battle of survival. Martin Scorsese is without a doubt my favorite director of all time. He has been for a long time. My favorite movie of all time is The Departed. I love Martin Scorsese. This is the least, like you said, the least Scorsese movie he has ever made. It is not the fast pace we know from Goodfellas and Wolf of Wall Street, and it's not the sort of abstract storytelling we get with some of the other movies he's told. It's more so akin to Silence. It's very nuanced. It's very retrospective. It's very much so a movie that none of his movies have ever really glorified gangster violence, but he's always made it cool. This is the first movie where it's gone, this isn't cool. All this shit has consequences. And when you're facing your own mortality, when you're at the end of your life and you have to sit at your deathbed ultimately and think about everything you've done and the weight that that has on Frank Shear and Robert De Niro's character is brilliant. This movie to me has the best ending scene of all year. The one that left me as soon as the last scene goes where he says, can you just leave the door open a little bit? And the way that camera transitions back around the hallway is the most heartbreaking thing I've seen in cinema this year. And I love The Irishman.
Nick, I hear you like Irishmen. And guess what?
What?
So do I.
Hey,
It's my
number
2
two.
film of the year.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw this movie on its opening Friday and at the Dundee Cinema, and I was dreading seeing a 3.5-hour film because I thought there's no way I can be able to stay in the whole time without going to the bathroom or because I have to eat for a movie that long. But I stuck it in, and yes, I was not bored for 1 minute of this film. I did feel the length, but I was never bored. I was transfixed by all the performances, and this is like a once-in-a-lifetime event. You know, the combination of Scorsese, De Niro, their first movie together since Casino, bringing Joe Pesci out of retirement, and also the first collaboration between Scorsese and Al Pacino, another icon of mob cinema. And you do look at that trailer and you think, oh, it's going to be Goodfellas with all the actors, even though they're playing younger. But no, this is not as fast or kinetic as a Goodfellas, which is one of my top 10 films of all time.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more melancholy. It deals with themes like a lot of Scorsese films, like coming into a world that you're not from, doing goodbye to the people in that world, but that world does come at a price. It's the rise and fall of a criminal. And like a lot of people, the technology, the de-aging on De Niro did throw me off at first, but as the movie went on, it grew on me. It's also darkly funny, like a lot of Scorsese films. And I just found Al Pacino. I know people find Joe Pesci better, but I love Al Pacino's just loud and over-the-top performance as Jimmy Hoffa. De Niro, it's one of his more quieter performances. I don't know if he's going to get nominated for this, but I thought he was just brilliant. And yeah, it is so great that Scorsese is still making this type of movie at 78.
Yes.
And if this was the last movie by these four men, what a great note to go out on.
Well, and that's something I just wanted to mention. We talked about 3 things this year that have tried to wrap up massive thing with Star Wars, Game of Thrones, and Marvel. To me, this almost felt like Scorsese's wrap up. Now, obviously, I know he's got other stuff in pre-production, but this almost felt like his goodbye to gangster films, and that was powerful to me. I think he put that through so strongly in his message in the film and the way he made the film, that slower, more reflective sort of vibe that the film has. To me, like I said, if this is the last 4 movies these guys all make alone or together, it is such a beautiful send-off for what these men have contributed to the gangster film genre, the American gangster movie, which is a dead genre.
Yeah.
There are no one is making good American gangster films anymore, and it's such a bittersweet moment, but a beautiful goodbye to that genre.
It's also not like it's not brutally violent like a Casino. There are guns to the head, but
It's brutal emotionally, I found. Like the
Yes.
scene, like obviously people know Jimmy Hoffa is dead. So like the scene where we see Jimmy Hoffa get killed is more shocking emotionally than violence, and
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like it's on my top 10. All right.
All right. Are we ready to do
Yep.
this, everybody?
Alrighty.
Number one.
Number
All right,
one.
Number one movie of the year.
Cats.
Damn it, you spoiled it.
I'm sorry. I knew we all had it.
Jesus.
I know we all have Cats
All
as
that
number
build
one.
up for nothing.
Sorry, I was so excited to get it.
You
out
mean the Academy Award nominated James Corden led movie
And
Cats?
I'm not even
Why
talking about
does,
the.
what he's gonna host the Oscars one day? I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
probably. Not even the version we saw. The re-edited for audiences version is my favorite version of this
Okay,
movie.
good.
Have you seen that trending photo? How do you know you're watching the old version of Cats? Look for Judi Dench's human hand and her wedding ring.
Yeah.
I didn't even
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right.
All right.
That was everyone's number 11.
All right. My number one movie of the year, and this movie just is everything that I wanted it to be and more, and that is Marriage Story. This movie is beautifully directed, so well written, so well edited. The cast is incredible and has everything that they need to be. I think that this movie is heartbreaking, yes, but it's also funny and it's hopeful, and it really does such a fantastic job of telling a love story, because I know that people laugh and say it's a story about divorce, and it is, but it's a love story about these two people who clearly love each other even though they're getting divorced. You can tell that this movie is completely held together by love and by what that looks like, even when it's completely ugly, even when it turns into what we don't want it to be. And it shows you those moments of this is what love looks like, even the parts that we don't want to talk about. This is what love looks like when the person that loves you the most in the world knows exactly how to hurt you, but also knows how to make you feel like you're on top of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson completely give their absolute best in these roles. I think Scarlett is fantastic, but I think Adam Driver is transcendent of everything.
The Adam, my number one is also Marriage Story. These are the
nice.
two. Yeah. These are,
Actually, yeah, I was like, you haven't mentioned it yet. So that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, that was a very dumb.
these are that was the one I'm like. Adam Driver in this is easily the best performance of the year. Like, and look, as good as Joaquin is as the Joker, as good as George McKay is, and as good as Brad Pitt are, they're they're not even in the conversation compared to how good Adam Driver is in this film. Adam Driver gives a performance that is beyond real. Like, you can feel everything he is going through. Everyone talks about the argument scene or the final or the scene towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
And they are incredible scenes. The scene that breaks my heart,
Yeah.
and I have gone back and I have watched this scene over and over because it is the best scene in the film. And
Yeah.
why have I just completely I have mental blanked the song. Being alive. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Being
Yeah.
alive is when he sings Being Alive.
Far out. That
It
scene.
is gut wrenching and just absolutely punches you in everywhere.
You're just dead.
Yeah.
You're just punched and you're dead.
It's a beautiful comparison to the song Scarlett Johansson
Yeah.
sings with her family.
Yeah.
You know, it's that uplifting, happy, family, joyous performance, and then we get drunk Adam Driver willowing in self-pity,
Yo.
and everyone else is being like, maybe, and he's like, no, I'm gonna fucking sing the song, and it's you're right, it's heartbreaking. And the other heartbreaking moment in the argument scene that I wanted to bring up earlier was when he looks at Scarlett Johansson and he is red in the face. He is Kylo Ren, red in the face, tears. And he just goes, sometimes I just wish you would get hit by a fucking bus or get an illness and just fucking die. And you just go, wow. Like, that is the penultimate, like, the argument scene is great, but it's the delivery of that line that where you go, you have to tap somewhere pretty dark to deliver it like that. And you're right. He's the best performance of the year.
I think one of my favorite scenes from the movie that really kind of sums up, I guess, what the movie is the scene in the kitchen where the divorce papers are
Yeah.
about to come out.
That's
And it
hilarious,
is
that
just such a dance. That
Yeah.
scene is just such a dance.
It's a testament to the editing. That scene is so well edited because there's cameras everywhere in that scene. But it's that moment of levity with the humor, and then it's the gut punch again, like you said.
But it's also the moment of like really getting to see into another aspect of their relationship, because no matter how much you want or don't want your in-laws to be a part of your life, or your own
The mom
parents
is so
even
funny.
to be a part of your relationship, they're always going to have input, or they're always
Yeah.
going to have opinions, or there's always going to be that thing. And the relationship that her mom has with
just
Adam
keep
Driver
thinking about the mum.
is
Oh.
just
Can we talk about Laura Dern in that film, because she's Scarlett Johansson's lawyer who has this "I'm here to tell your story, I'm here to be a friend," but there's also this reptilian nature to how nice she is. It's like she nails it.
Yeah, Laura Dern is. You said it earlier, where you said this film is a condemnation on lawyers. Like the film is okay, it's going okay, and then the lawyers get involved, and the way the strength of the writing and the performance of Laura Dern is when she is able to completely manipulate Scarlett, and like in just one scene, and a brilliant performance and one take of then Scarlett going, "No, I deserve this. I deserve it," and convincing herself.
Yeah.
Again, Scarlett is incredible in this film as well.
And I thought it was handled well with the juxtaposition of both of the lawyers
Yeah.
that they end up using
Yeah.
too, because
Oh, God, yeah.
because it's such a fascinating movie in terms of trying to like we've talked about, really tell this through the lens of, well, what happens when love turns into this? Like when this is the lens that you see it through, when all of a sudden it reaches this point and it's not even about the two of you anymore. It's about all of these people.
It's never
it's-
about the husband and the wife. It's what is everyone else getting out of this divorce, whether it's lawyers, whether it's children, whether it's in-laws. It's such a messy thing.
Yeah, and I thought overall it was handled so well,
Yeah.
and I really do want to sit down and watch it again, just because.
I've been like Nick. I've watched clips. Like I've been going back and watching clips. And I think that's the thing that's gotten me over the line is I've gone back and I've watched these scenes again that I just absolutely adored. But the biggest thing I take away of this movie, you're right in that it is a love story. It is a love story between two people who are clearly still in love with each other. They just can't live together.
Yeah.
Like they just don't want to be married anymore. And what I find so actually refreshing about it is it's a story about divorce that ultimately ends hopeful.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
the ending of the film is not a bitter, angry, just divorce sucks.
Yeah.
Like it's both people end up happier. Like they end up, well, not happier might not be the right word, but they end up.
Better off would be
I think
better off is the way to put it.
I also like how Adam Driver's character keeps making these abstract arguments like, we're a New York family. And
Yeah.
it's like, what does that even mean?
He's like holding on to his own hope. But then, and that's what I think the Scarlett story is more so about, is having been in that grasp of his hope for so long, when she gets a little bit of a taste of hers, was why she's better off at the end. And that's why I think they're happier, because he feels a release that he's not controlling someone anymore. And then Scarlett feels the release of the fact that she can now live her own life. Still knowing that love is okay, to still love someone in that way is perfectly fine, but they get to be able to be their own people now. And I think that's quite a powerful thing.
Yeah, and that's just, I love this film.
All
Awesome movie.
right. Number one,
All right,
Nick.
I think I know what both of you have as your number
I think we
one.
both have the same number one.
Yeah, I have a feeling.
Our
'cause
movie
it-
versus your marriage story.
Yeah, but I have a feeling, considering you neither of you have mentioned this one yet, I have a feeling I know exactly what both of your number ones are. And this is going to be a very interesting conversation.
Yes.
Parasite's the best movie of 2019. Without a doubt, there is no other movie that will surpass this.
Ditto.
Yeah, look. When I saw the movie a week after it won the Palme d'Or. It can. And that can mean anything. Like, I've seen Palme d'Or winning movies and I've gone, they're completely art housey shit house. They're pretentious. and then I've seen some that I've really enjoyed. So I walked into Parasite going like, I know people like this. I know this is getting some festival buzz at the moment, and very lucky, Australia got it really early.
Before the US.
I saw it in June. And that was in public. Like, I didn't get any special screeners or anything. Like, I paid to go watch this movie 9 o'clock at night after a full work day. And it goes like 2 hours and 15 minutes or something. I didn't walk out thinking it was going to be my number one movie of the year. I was like, I really, really liked it. I loved it. And I thought about that movie every day, probably until since this day. It starts as a satire on class in Japan. Rich people have it really good. Poor people have it really bad. And that's the first act of the film. Then we get this sort of like Ocean's 11-esque like heist, like family infiltration comedy thriller. And then we get the most darkly comedic yet tension-based final 45 minutes of this movie that really hits the message home that like that class-based systems a serious effect on economy, on politics, on everything like that. So it shouldn't work. Parasite should not work as a movie. It is convoluted. It is a mess. But Bong Joon-ho has directed the absolute hell out of it and made one of the most entertaining cinema experiences of the year for me. Cinematography, beautiful. Script is amazing. Acting is phenomenal. Score is really good. It has the perfect recipe for me to make a perfect movie.
Absolutely agree. I did not think I was going to love Parasite because, one, I have never had a foreign language movie in any of my top 10s in the past. I had never seen any of Bong Joon-ho's film. I only watched Snowpiercer after watching Parasite. I was attracted to Parasite after hearing it became the first Korean film to win the Palme d'Or.
I think so, yeah.
And I went into it at the Dendy, and man, this was one of those movies where it surprised me every 10 minutes, and just there were 4 times in the movie that I thought, okay, this is where it ends. Oh wait, no. Okay, no, this is where it ends. Okay, no, this is where it ends. The creativity
creative.
It just keeps going on, and like you said, it should not have worked because it blends so many different things. Like I won't spoil anything, but there's a scene involving a group of people hiding under a coffee table when the owners of the house come in. That sounds like something out of a silly Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
But it works, and the way Bong Joon-ho seamlessly combines horror, a social thriller, the haves versus the have-nots, violence. There's a twist halfway through the film involving a secondary character that disappears in the first half of the film. It's a great ensemble. It's what's the word? A master stroke of a movie, and I have no hesitation at naming this my number one film of the year.
Rebuttal.
Okay. Okay, look. I enjoyed it. I think it's a good movie. I just didn't love it. I don't, and I never saw the next step for it. Like I saw okay, this is really well made. It's a very interesting story. So I just didn't see this is special. Like that there wasn't that extra level. I think, and maybe it's just I was going in expecting one thing and got something else. Like when you're saying that, like the thing I had heard the most about this is, oh my god, the twist.
Yeah, see, that confuses me as someone who loved the movie because the selling point for me was never the twist.
Yeah,
like it's not like it's the Sixth Sense. It's
not,
not, it doesn't change. It changes something in the film that was already there. It wasn't like it's like, and now you're getting this. You know what I mean?
But not only that, like I think the story itself is entertaining and good. I think it's 3 films in one, and that's in a okay way. Like there's things that just it didn't resonate. It just didn't stay with me. It hasn't, like, you're saying that, you know, when you walked out, you went, oh, it was a good movie, but it stayed with you.
Oh no, I loved it. Like, but
Yeah.
I didn't walk out thinking it was gonna be number one.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Like,
what shocked me the
But
most.
to me, I walked out and I've gone, yeah, I've really, if no one else had talked about it all year, I probably would have forgotten about it.
okay.
Like, it's not stuck with me. It's not one that, like, the fact that other people keep bringing it up as one of the best films of the year, that it's most likely is going to get nominated for Best Picture, like that it is going to get these award nominations and stuff. That's what's the only reason I'm still remembering about it. So yeah, I don't know. It's just one that just never resonated with me.
I don't think I feel quite as strongly negatively as you do about it. Damn, you never talked about it like that with me. Because I thought we felt the same way about this movie, but clearly very much not. Look, this movie was never going to make my top 10. It just wasn't going to. But there's a lot about this movie that I thought was fantastic. I thought the acting is ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're all
Awesome.
so good. I thought that it built tension very well. I thought the tone was really great. And I thought that the story was very interesting. I think it's a commentary on a lot of different things, but the way that it talks about the class system and the way that people at the bottom of the class system kind of can fall into this obsession of trying to get to the top or of finding ways to just even enjoy the elements that the people at the top get to have, even if it's just for a couple hours of their day, or you know, whatever your feeling is, if where you are in the class spectrum, and kind of seeing that in a different culture, because it's not told from an American perspective, and it's not told from a way that I normally see in film, which in itself is very, very interesting, because Western culture is very different from anything else.
Absolutely.
And so I thought that was great. And I did think that the twist, I guess, I don't really know if I would call it a twist. I think that
I agree with
it's a point in the movie where it's a very interesting choice that the movie makes, but after it makes it, you go, oh, that's just the progression of the story.
It's just the next step.
That's the next place it needs to go. To kind of come to a head of where this story is ultimately trying to go, which is not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. But this movie gave me so much anxiety. It's another one of those in the class of
2019's been the year for that.
of just giving me anxiety. There was a point in the movie where I was like, I don't know if I can sit through the rest of this, just because I'm nervous about what's gonna happen at the end of this movie.
What I loved about the film, there's so many moments where I thought, how are they gonna get out of this?
Well, that's right.
How could this end happily?
Yeah. Well, and that was my thing too, and I didn't know where it was gonna go, and that's something I really enjoyed about it. Was when the movie started, I thought I kind of knew maybe where it was gonna go, and as it continued, I went, oh, dude, I have no freaking idea where this movie is about to take us, because it feels like it can only end in disaster.
The extremities of the film just increase more and more and more and more each time. It just goes up and up and up and up and up. And obviously it reaches a peak and a pinnacle where you're like, oh, fuck. Like when you start this movie and it's just a poor family trying to steal Wi-Fi from a cafe that's near them, or to where we get to now, is incredible. And I can't remember who said it, but a reviewer said on YouTube that the best way to talk about what this movie is really about is there is a scene with rain, and it's pissing down rain, and it's torrential rain in Korea, and the rich family are like, oh, look at this lovely rain, we can sit in our living room, and then the poor family's house is getting flooded, and they're trying to get all their stuff out in this exact same rainstorm. And that's what the movie is ultimately trying to talk about. Everything else is just like, you know, like all the toppings on top of the cake, all the yummy things we like, which is with comedy and horror and all those things. But the actual, what we're taking the chunk out of is there is one event can happen to multiple different people, and everyone will see it in different ways. And that's what the movie is really good at trying to get as an audience to realize as well.
And I think it really forces you to kind of ask the question of yourself of, are either of these families in the right by the end of the movie? Because it kind of feels like it starts the movie off by saying, you know, maybe you should feel bad for the people who are at the lower class end of the spectrum, right? And then towards the end you go, but have what they done, is that justify what they've decided to do? And it's just such an interesting conversation to have, because no, obviously you can't just
they're not
just
great
go
people.
they're not great people making great decisions, but do you really feel bad for the people that it's happening to? And it's just such an interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting.
I think
love
I think that even if this movie isn't in your top 10 or whatever, I think it's a movie that gives you a lot to think about. I think it's a great achievement in a lot of different ways. And I am glad that it's getting international attention, because I think that it definitely deserves it. It definitely brings, like I said, a different kind of conversation, and it's not your typical kind of Western drama that people are used to seeing.
Yeah.
And getting people intrigued into different kinds of storytelling is always good for the kind of movies we're going to get going forward. Guys, we've been talking about movies for 2 hours. We did it
Again.
Another Tuesday for us.
We got through our year in review of 2019, and boy was it a year for movies. It was. Oh my gosh. Well, is there anything else anyone wants to mention before we wrap this up?
Actually, no, there is one movie I want to talk about really quick. It's a foreign film again while we're on the foreign film train. And if you haven't had a chance to see it, Monos. It's a Colombian film. I'm really upset it didn't make my top 10. I like Hollywood movies a lot more. Monos, definitely worth checking out. Lord of the Flies, but way more fucked up.
I want to give a shout out to a documentary called The Australian Dream. I was not familiar with the story, but of course it is the story about who did he
Adam
play
Goods,
for?
the Sydney Swans.
Yeah, Sydney Swans footy player Adam Swans, how his footy career came to a halt after an incident where he called out a Collingwood spectator who yelled monkey, that turned out to be a 13-year-old girl, and that got him a lot of backlash. And the whole movie is a debate, it's a whole look at, footy, race in Australia, and
they're talking about football, guys.
Footy.
If you
Football.
don't know what footy is, Australian rules football, because probably maybe 5 people watching this are gonna know what the hell footy means. I'm just telling you that right now.
And there's going to be people boycotting this doco because there are people who don't side with Adam Goods, but I think this documentary, it doesn't choose a side, it represents both sides, and even if it doesn't change your mind, it will start a great conversation.
All right.
One last quick mention. Really good horror. Like we've mentioned the quirky horror films. One that I just want to mention that I really enjoy, that I think not enough people are actually talking enough praise about, and that's Escape Room.
Escape Room was really good.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
It's just a lot of fun.
The sequel's coming out next year. They're like, I've already filmed it.
Yeah, so there is a sequel.
I don't know who's in it.
I don't know who's in it.
It's a bunch of no-names.
Yeah, it was, but it's just a really, really fun, entertaining movie that I enjoyed.
It was a good year for film, and if you guys have some downtime at the beginning of the new year when there aren't really a lot of movies being released, it would be a good time to kind of check out what you missed and really dive into it. I know that we're going to be doing that because we still have a lot we need to catch up on at this point. God. But if you guys have stuck through this 2-hour movie discussion, thank you so very much. Please leave your thoughts in the comments about what your favorite movies of 2019 were, your honorable mentions. If there's anything we didn't talk about you think that we should watch, please let us know in the comments. All of our social media links are going to be down in the description if you want to find us. Jacob and I will put our Letterboxd accounts down there if you want to actually visually see what our lists and honorable mentions look like. Seriously, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for all of your support throughout the year, and we will see you all next time.